You're listening to Garibaldi Red, a Nottingham Forest podcast brought to you by Nottinghamshire Live. Hello, welcome to Garibaldi Red. No one said it was ever going to be easy against Southampton, but last night was something else. As Nottingham Forest won 4-3 in one of the most nerve-wracking games at the City Ground in living memory. It means the Reds are still alive in the Premier League after Leeds and Leicester lost, while Everton won against a surprisingly awful Brighton. Joining me to discuss all that is, first of all, Reds legend Garry Birtles, who's literally just disappeared. That is incredible timing. You back, Gary?
I am back, yeah.
I was just saying good morning. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Yeah, it was a Manchester number, which is always a concern.
It's one of those telemarketing things. You need to block it. Never mind. The second guest today is Paul's Garibaldi's Greg Mitchell. Morning, how are you?
I'm all right. I'd be lying to say I was fresh and ready to go, but it's always easier after a win, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, Michael Temple's had to drop out at the last minute. He was advertised, but he can't join us, but not to worry. We've obviously got two great guests. Greg, why don't you start us off? The emotion, the noise, the results, what does it mean?
Yeah, everything. The scarves, that was as good as I've ever seen the Trent End. I mean, spend all this money and time on displays and all we have to do is say bring a scarf. It looks incredible. But yeah, God, that crowd really did take him home at the end, didn't they? That was probably as nervous, and I've said this before, and but that's about as nervous as I've ever been at the end of a game. It was horrendous, wasn't it? I mean, when they get free kicks or corners or anything, you're just so worried about the delivery. And obviously the penalty, and you thought, here we go again, surely not. To the point where when the final whistle went, it wasn't even joy, it was just pure like relief and just unbelievable. If that's the game that keeps us up, it's going to be one that's remembered, that's for sure.
Gary, you've played in some of the biggest games imaginable. I guess it's easier being on the pitch because there's an element of control. What's it like watching games like that?
Oh, it's dreadful. Absolutely awful. I just couldn't watch. I was looking at the Trent End with the last few minutes because we knew there was going to be more than 7 minutes of injury time. So that made it even worse. But I think both teams realised the pressure they were under after Everton's result, because I fancied Leicester to beat Fulham. I thought they got a chance because Fulham have, maybe gone off the boil a little bit. But I expect nobody saw the Everton 5-1 at Brighton. I don't think anybody saw that coming at all. And Brighton weren't all that bad. I mean, they played well. They had all the possession. Pickford made saves. I was watching the game beforehand. And that put real pressure on both ourselves and Southampton last night, that result. And I think the way Forest responded, I thought, was magnificent. And the crowd played a massive part. You talk about the scarves. And I was sat with next to Guy Moussi, and he'd got his scarf, and his mate had got his scarf there. He was singing all the songs, and he was loving it. He said to me, "Don't worry, we've got this." And that was at 4-2, and then they penalty. I said, "Are you sure?" So it was nerve-wracking to say the least.
We'll get into the game at great length, obviously, but in terms of the relegation battle, Greg, how are you feeling about it now? Well, you're going to say we're going to stay up, but how are you feeling about it in general?
Better. I think even the most negative pundits on Forest are going to say we've got a better chance than Leeds and Leicester at the minute. It's just the way it is, and the goal difference is that point we need, isn't it? That's the only big worry for me. So I do think we're going to need another point. But yeah, gosh, imagine if we hadn't won last night, what we'd have been looking at this morning, and that was huge. That was so big. And you look at the table now, and you look at the games that Leeds and Leicester have got coming up, and you think, get a result at Chelsea and it's definitely all over. Definitely 36 points for me is definitely enough. But I'd love it to end how it is now. I think those two down, it'd be nice for me. It really would.
I think I prefer chasing in a sense. I feel more optimistic. Now we're out of it, I feel more pessimistic. I'll get another 3 points and another 3 points.
Yeah, you need to speak to someone about that.
we're all looking at fixtures, and like I said last night, everybody thought Brighton would batter Everton, and fair play to Everton and Sean Dyche. Goodness me, what a result that is. And you look at the results and you'll see, well, I think that's a difficult. Well, Leicester have got Liverpool, but it wouldn't surprise you now with the results how they're going that Leicester beat Liverpool. It's just a ridiculous run of results that are happening at the moment. Leeds are the one in a little bit of free fall, but now Sam Allardyce is there. That could change things a little bit. We saw at Manchester City that they weren't a million miles off. So there's still a hell of a lot to play for.
How many points then, Gary? Another win or even 4 points?
I think he would have got a point at Brentford last week. I think that might just have been enough. That might come back to haunt us a little bit, but let's hope not. I don't think there's any fear out there, with the 3 games we've got left, because Arsenal could be feeling sorry for themselves if, it doesn't happen for them. And Crystal Palace are safe anyway. Chelsea, well, they won at Bournemouth, but Bournemouth were safe. So it's all there for us. It's in our hands. It's not out of our hands, which is one thing you didn't want to happen. And I think the performance all round last night was just fantastic, despite them having the majority of the possession. Because they played well last night. Let's give them credit, Southampton. They moved it well. They caused us problems. And Ward-Prowse's delivery is just absolutely superb. It'll cause anybody problems. And, so it proved last night.
Yeah, you could see their strengths, couldn't you? You could see why both teams have struggled, because no one could really defend in certain scenarios, and we'll get onto that. Last one on the relegation battle, Greg. Do you think the fact that I think we haven't played badly now for maybe 5 fixtures, we seem to have found a bit of a formula, while Leicester, like Gary said, I thought Leicester might get a result there. They've blown up. Leeds are in crisis, even if they've got a new manager. He's going to be putting a team together and scrambling around. Do you think Forest's maybe a bit of cohesion at the right time gives them an edge?
Yeah, 6 points out of 9. Like we said, when we lost that gutting result against Brentford, we said if we get this result that we did in the end, that 6 out of 9 looks good. And Sky put a table up of the relegation battle against each other. And we were top of that league by a mile. 14 points, I think, we've got against other relegation teams. And that's going to be the key, isn't it? The odd wonder result's fantastic, but beat the teams around you and you're going to stay up.
Let's get into the game then. And I'll probably just start on the first goal, because it opens up the avenues for some of the players we need to talk about anyway. Gary, that ball by Danilo, the touch by Brennan, the finish by Awoniyi. I mean, just the quality of that goal after a pretty sticky start by Forest. It set the wheels in motion, didn't it?
Yeah, they were the better side in the early stages of the game, and you thought, well, is it nerves? Nerves play a part. Like I say, after that Everton result, they would have known that result, and it does put pressure on you. But the ball, the delivery, it just shows the class of Danilo. It was just inch perfect, fabulous touch by Brennan, and he played a fabulous ball across. For a striker, that is a dream ball, and you've got to be there to finish it, and that's what Awoniyi does. That's what we've missed. I think had he been fit over the past few months, fully fit, I don't think we'd have been in this position. I think we might just have been, where Bournemouth are maybe. But when you've got a striker, his second goal was magnificent. The technique was just absolutely superb. And, if he continues like that, he stays fit. He looked a little bit labouring, just before he came off. But that's understandable. He's a nuisance. He's a handful for defenders. And it's just the little mistakes, you're concerned about, the defending from set pieces, giving the ball away as we've done at home, and teams have just punished us from those mistakes. When we cut those out, then we've got a big chance.
It was interesting. Jamie Carragher on Sky compared Awoniyi to Drogba, which I thought was a good comparison on the night, the manner he took those goals. Carragher also tweeted, Greg, about Danilo finally realising that, he's a bit of a player, after you told him and Neville and the smug host on the overlap a couple of weeks ago. So give us a word on Danilo, since you called it. Well, not
got some cheek, haven't they? I just think I think he was probably man of the match last night. I think the sponsors gave it him, didn't they? But Sky gave it Gibbs-White. And it's just fully deserved. And I love the fact that 2 different players got it as well, because it was, share the love. But if he continues these next 3 games the way he has been the last 3 games, then suddenly he's in a shout for player of the season, as stupid as it sounds, because he has literally been influential in the way these results have gone. He's so good. He's young. He's even already got his celebrations. I love his goal celebrations, and it's not just his goals, is it? That ball he played for the first goal is just superb, and he is such a quality player, and I think we've got him on a decent contract, haven't we?
6 years, I think.
Yes,
6.5
I
years,
mean,
yeah.
what a move that is! What a move! And I always thought Scarpa was going to be the guy, not him. I thought he was more of a risk. So, it's a special talent. If he keeps continuing how he does, like his age, everything about him, we're either going to get a lot of money in a couple of years, or he's going to be one of the reasons that we keep like pushing on. So yeah, I love him. One of my favourites.
I mean, everyone's been critical of January, myself included, but if Danilo and Felipe are the two players that make a huge difference, and the other signings in January are a bit of a dud, I don't think it matters really. They've been brilliant. Are you drinking out of a signed mug there?
Yeah, I'm struggling, I must admit.
Who's it signed
It's
by?
a strong. This is the mug that took you about 6 months to get to me. It's Pro's.
How are you washing it?
Yeah.
Oh, you're not sticking it in the dishwasher, are you? You can't get rid of Pro's.
No, it's very, very carefully washed. I've had a long weekend.
I can tell. Garry, it was on Danilo. Do you think the return of Ryan Yates helped? I know Yates, he didn't have his best game, I think, but he's a presence and he had a running battle with Alcaraz. And does that give Danilo a bit more freedom combined with the discipline of Mangala, who's come into his own as well?
I think the system last night was spot on. When I saw the team, a smile came on my face because it was so proactive. And with Ryan Yates coming back in as well and leading the team out, you could feel it around the City ground, when his name was shouted on the tannoy, when the team was read out, everybody was delighted. And he gave it, what he does. He gives it everything he possibly can. And he's been out a while. He's been in and out. He's not had, probably the best preparation for games or anything like that. But, he does what he does, and he does it particularly well. And it was great to see him back, and to have that length of time on the pitch will do him a power of good. And, we're getting players back. It's nice to see Bolly, back on the touchline as well. These players we thought might not be coming back, so all of a sudden, we've got them back, and that could be massive for us going into these last 3 games.
Just give us another word on the second goal, Garry. I know you touched on it briefly, but the quality of the finish by Awoniyi and the interesting lack of a celebration as well. He didn't really celebrate either goal, did he?
Well, I like that. I quite like that. I mean, I never used to celebrate goals. I remember, I just used to put my fist up, and that was it. You run back to the centre circle and get on with it again, and try and get another one. He's always proved that. I mean, I go back to the West Ham game all that time ago at home when it hit his, it hit him on the knee, and we won the game 1-0. Strikers get in positions like that. When we've not had a striker in the team, there's been some really good build-up play and great balls across the face of the goal. And had a proper striker, been in, I remember the Tottenham game at home when we lost, but we created so many good opportunities with the delivery across the face of the goal. And had the one you've been playing, it could have been different. It's all right looking back in hindsight, but he knows where to be. Strikers do that. They have that knack. You just got to mention Haaland in this. I mean, he just knows, you watch what he does, his intelligence and everything. He expects the unexpected. That's what strikers do. And, it's good to see him out there causing problems. And he's honest as well. He'll go into the channels. He'll present himself to anybody in midfield. But yeah, it's just the all-round performance last night. I just thought from everybody was, particularly good. And Joe Worrell came on again, and I thought did well when he came on.
Yes,
I think, pardon?
I'll say we'll come on to Joe because, there might be a role for him in the team going forwards, an unlikely one, but he did do well, didn't he? Greg, were you remotely surprised when Southampton got a goal back and the manner of it, Forest not helping themselves? It was a very Forest thing to do, wasn't it?
When we went, we had a nice 2-goal lead for a while, didn't we? And it's blooming horrible. So no, unfortunately not surprised, because it's just what we do, isn't it? We have to suffer. We have to cause as much pain as possible. So
we've done similar against Everton, Newcastle at home, haven't we? Giving it away in that sort of area. In the next minute, it's in the back of the net.
But then it's just that the only difference again today is we scored at the right times as well. And but then at the end, to go from thinking it's 5-2 within 5 minutes, it being 4-3, it's just, that's a Forest thing, isn't it? And I thought, here we go. That's
what
why
a
it was
finish by
so
Felipe,
horrendous.
by the way, the one that
Yeah.
was loud. Goodness me, what a touch.
What a celebration.
Yeah. Can I ask them? I've not seen it again, but everybody I spoke to said their penalty shouldn't have been a penalty.
Mm.
Oh, well, let's come on to it then. Yeah, I saw it. I thought it was an absolutely ridiculous decision. I don't mind the ref giving it, but have you seen it back, Greg?
Yeah, so yesterday I sat with Sam, my friend Sam Perkins. So we had a screen with us, and straight away it was like, well, that's been overturned. That's the only time I've seen it back, and I'd had a couple of beers, so it's a bit hazy. But we were like, oh, that's overturned. The stress had gone then. It's definitely not a penalty, telling people it's not a penalty. And then it was still given. So the highlights this morning, they don't show you it. So, yeah.
But how can VAR get that so wrong when, I mean, there were Forest people, but I went and said, first thing one guy said to me, he said, seen the penalty again and again. He said, it wasn't a penalty.
Did he touch him?
I've not seen it, so
I mean,
don't know.
Yeah, maybe it was hard to tell, but I mean, you know, I think we've said VAR so often; it's a human error thing, isn't it? I think that's a big human error from Paul Tierney's of VAR. I thought it definitely should have been turned over. It was the slightest touch.
And talking about penalties, how well did Brennan do for our penalty?
Oh, to win it.
Yeah, no, to get his foot there first, you know, to encourage the challenge. I thought, you know, that was pretty good.
I think on VAR, one thing they need to do, it's hard to quantify, but defining what a howling error is, because it was supposed to be, you know, it would eliminate howling errors, and to me that was a howling error, I thought.
Tierney will get his job again on Saturday. That's what annoys me as much as anything. Like, if it was such a blatant error on their part, don't give them that role next week.
True.
Accountability, and then say, no, you can go and ref a League One game, go and ref Derby or something, and then leave it at that, because it's ridiculous, but there's never accountability for it, especially when it's that critical as well. This time of the season, how massive that could have been.
Yeah.
It's difficult to go and ref Derby next, because that league's finished now.
There's people in the comments saying it was a penalty, some of them, because he did touch him. I don't know. I didn't feel like it was personally. Just going back to the first Southampton goal, it was Gibbs-White who gave it away, Gary, but that was really the only blot on his copybook in the game, wasn't it? I thought he looks right back at it at the right time now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I mean, what he did for the Danilo goal was just absolutely sensational for me. The ball to come in at that pace, and, you know, the awareness to do that. It's instinct. People will say, well, you know, how do you do that? You don't know. In the moment, you just do something. People always ask me, how did you do that? So I've got no idea. You know, it's just, it comes to you and your brain clicks in and you do what you think is right when it comes to you. You know, you don't plan it, especially in that particular area. But he knew what was around him. You know, that's what's impressive. And, you know, he provides that pace going forward. He gives us a different dimension. You know, you've got Brennan on the right-hand side. So you've got pace, strength, you've got creative ability in midfield. It's just that, you know, defensively, we've got to tighten things up a little bit and defend better, you know, especially from set pieces, because we saw Liverpool. You know, we'd have got something at Liverpool had we not defended, you know, that, not badly, but if we'd have defended a little bit better. You know, and the goal, Brentford at the near post, you know, the winner for Brentford. You know, avoidable goals again. That's what we've been saying since I think the Tottenham game away. All the goals, you know, majority have been, you know, avoidable goals. So if we can tighten things up in that respect, then, you know, we've got a big chance of staying up.
They do seem to have found that attacking formula now. With Danilo's like that fourth prong of the attack with his energy. He just definitely opens things up for them. Greg, what do you want to say to Wolves fans about Gibbs-White and that fee now?
I'll wait until the end of the season, but I'll definitely be saying something, that's for sure. I love him. I just think I was always excited about getting him anyway, and not thinking that we were the quality of team that he'd go to. And when we did, it was like the start of who else we're going to sign. So you build a team around a player like him. His post-match interview yesterday basically said next season, you know, in this league, will be even better, and you'll build it around a player like Gibbs-White, who he's got 3 or 4 years until he's at his peak of his career anyway. And it's exciting, and give him the players around him. If we manage to keep hold of Johnson next season, you just see the link up they have, the football brains they have, like perfect cross from Johnson, the slightest of touches just to put it onto Danilo. It was such a lovely goal to watch. And that's what it's all about. It's not about dribbling and having the ball for 10 minutes. It's those little, the little things that we wouldn't be able to do, let's say. Maybe Garry would have.
And the thing is, as well, for the penalty, stepped up again to, take the penalty under massive pressure, at that particular point of the game. There's a long way to gain, and, to have the courage to take it and just smash it down the middle. You do the right thing in those circumstances. We've said it before, haven't we? When penalties have been missed, why don't you just smash it down the middle? He did that.
Well, the crowd are confident with him as well. You couldn't tell who was going to take the penalty for a while. Then as soon as Gibbs-White got it, there was a cheer. There was a big cheer. But would you hit it down the middle? It takes some... I can't think of the word without swearing.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, well, Maddison hit one down the middle, didn't he? And Pickford stood up to it. So
yeah, it could go wrong, couldn't it?
I know, Garry, on here, you said to smash it down the middle a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
Yeah.
I don't think he should next week. Yeah. I think he'd have to...
Vardy, Garry.
Pardon?
You were saying Vardy took one and he missed, didn't he?
Vardy missed yesterday, didn't he? Yeah, and then Maddison took the second one.
True. Garry, just on Gibbs-White, do you have to give the manager some credit? I mean, personally, I think a couple of weeks ago he could have either played Morgan in a different role, a deeper role, or he could even have taken him out of the team. His performances have dipped a little bit, I think, like Leeds away and games like that. But Cooper, he backed him to the hilt, and now they're really reaping the rewards. I think that's 12 goal contributions this season.
You've got to give Steve Cooper massive credit for everything that's going on at the moment. He's gone proactive with his selection. We've got creative mobility in midfield now. In the past we've seen lack of mobility that's maybe cost us in midfield. We're not sitting back and saying, right, let's hang on to this sort of lead. Yesterday we just kept going. We wanted to score again. We didn't try and drop back, and towards the end we did, obviously, because it was becoming a little bit nervy and a little bit tight. That's expected. You don't want to throw it away, and that encouraged them on in the final stages with the length of the injury time. But no, I think the proactive way he's gone about it, and before Freuler's been there as the holding midfield player, and you've had Shelby in there, Jack Colback's been in there. But now, there looks total mobility in there, and the threats are coming from different areas as well now, which always is a massive boost and benefit for you. I mean, when we played, we had John Robertson on the left, we had Martin O'Neill on the right, but then you had Bowyer, who was a great goal-scoring midfield player. You had Archie Gemmell, who was, terrific. And, when you've got those prongs in your team, different, sort of players who can make a massive contribution, then you're gonna score goals, and that's what we've got there. That creative ability, we saw that in two of the goals, and long may they be in there together in that formation with that starting 11.
Yeah, it's 7 goals in 2 home games, 2 at Liverpool, the 1 at Brentford. Finally clicked in that area. If people are enjoying this, by the way, I know there's almost 700 watching. I'm not sure how many are on YouTube, but do give us a like if you're enjoying it. Greg, just give us a word on the final player in that attacking quartet, I guess you'd call it now, with Danilo as well. Brennan, back to his best, 2 assists last night. A very smart work to win that penalty as well.
Yeah, and his pace. I think Sam was saying yesterday when we were watching it that he's been recorded as like the fastest ever Premier League player now, something ridiculous like that.
Fastest this season, fastest sprint.
Fastest sprint in this season. But he did one run down the right near the A block, like just straight past their left back. The pace he's got, and now he's got the touch as well. He's frightening. That's why I think we stay up this season. I still think there's going to be a lot of interest, and we're going to have to do everything to wrap him up and keep hold of him, persuade him that staying here under Coots for another season or 2 is the right thing for his career, because he's a special talent. and he's got all that, like I say, that natural pace. You can't teach that, can you? You can't make a player as quick as him unless they've got it already. So he's going to have so much interest. That's why you stay in the Premier League, you keep hold of him. That's priority one for me in the summer.
I think he's learning the game very quickly, because you sometimes forget how old he is. And, he's had a few critics, I think wrongly so at times. You have to learn. And if you make, a mistake, you think you should have done better and you should have delivered earlier. If you don't learn from it, then you don't deserve to be out. But he has learned very quickly, what he does wrong on a pitch. He probably should have played a bit earlier. And I think that's highly commendable, the way he's gone about his season. Without him, we'd have been in big trouble, with the goals he scored.
I don't know whether it's because he's been brought up around this club, like he's literally, it's all he's ever known, isn't it, with his dad here and everything. But it's when he speaks about the club and the fans and the situation we're in as well. Even after the Brentford game, his interviews are so sensible and like years ahead of his time. And I just think he's a real talent, but you can tell there's a real good lad behind of all that as well, which is obviously what we want to see at Forest.
I think playing for his country as well, for Wales, has really helped him as well. At that age, getting that opportunity to play for your country, I think is absolutely superb. And the sky's the limit for him. It really is, because I think he's got a good head on his shoulders. His dad makes sure of that, I'm sure. And he couldn't be, with a better manager, because he believes in Brennan, and he gives him the wherewithal to do what he does best, which is frighten defenders, with his pace, with his ability. And it's great to watch him, evolve as a striker, not a striker, out and out striker, but he can do, the creative stuff, and he can score goals as well. So he's only going to get better, you would think.
Yeah, you're right about the World Cup as well. I know Wales didn't set the world alight, but the experience must have done wonders for him, because since the World Cup, he's been fantastic for Forest. And he was so quick that Southampton defender pulled his hamstring and was out of the game for the rest of the match. So, yeah, that shows how rapid he is. Just coming back to set pieces then, Gary, because Southampton score early in the second half to make it 3-2 and very nervous again. What do you want to see Forest do? Is it a question of Navas coming for the ball and being more commanding, or do they need to set up differently? What's going wrong at defending set pieces, do you think?
It's difficult when you're against somebody like Ward-Prowse. Sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and say, "Okay, what a great delivery that was." You sometimes you can do nothing about it. Believe me, if it's that good, and he's so consistent with his delivery, you very, very rarely see him miss the man at the near post. When he takes a corner, when he takes a free kick, you never see him really overhit it, or very rarely. And to continually defend against that's not easy. And goalkeepers, it's not always easy to come, among, a lot of players. I mean, people are saying about the goal for, the one he punched and they got back in it. Maybe he could have done better there again. But it's a difficult one. We've got two great headers of the ball in, our two centre halves. And when Joe came on, I thought that was a big help, to be quite honest, because he will head it. He'll put himself in the way of things. And when you've got that sort of player coming on who loves the football club, who will do anything to help out and get things going the right way, then that's not bad. But delivery-wise, Ward-Prowse. I played with the genius John Robertson, whose delivery was incredible. As a striker, you couldn't wish for more, and that's what Ward-Prowse gives to Southampton. I mean, somebody's going to get him. You would think if Southampton go down, somebody's going to be lucky to get hold of Ward-Prowse, because he's top at what he does. I think he's not quite with Beckham yet, is he, regarding free kicks, but he's getting close. And it's difficult to stop sometimes.
Could we go for him?
Well, that's what I was going to say. People in the comments are saying we should go for him. I mean, to me, I don't know, Gary, I think he ends up at a club like Newcastle or Villa that are one stage ahead or two stages ahead of where Forest are right now. Or am I doing
you're possibly right? But why shouldn't he come to a club like ours? The quality of the players coming in at the moment, people can see that. And, Steve Cooper's reputation goes before him, the way, he handles players and he runs a football club. So why not? He is a quality player without a doubt. And it'd be interesting to see in a very good side how good he could be. But if when we do stay up, then we'll be looking at players like that again. You've got to try and improve the quality of your team.
Yes, I was going to say if we stay up, but you've said when we stay up. So hopefully, obviously, we all hope that happens. Ironically, again, Greg, just like Gibbs-White was at fault for the first goal, Felipe was probably at fault for that second goal because he lets the Anko run off him and head it in. But Felipe again was absolutely sensational overall, and like we said, that goal, which I thought was onside initially, and they draw the lines. You don't know where they're going to draw the lines with VAR again, but that's another conversation. But in general, Felipe, brilliant. Niakate, very strong as well.
Yeah, both of them. And with Niakate as well, you've got the throw-ins now. Notice the ball boys now have a little towel with them, so we've gone full Stoke in that sense. But it works for us, doesn't it? And with Ward-Prowse and his deliveries for the corners, that was the only thing he thought, at least Felipe's there with his head, and he's such a unit. But he's got pace as well, hasn't he? For a big centre-back, you don't realise that he can outrun a player on the break. And, and it helps. And, I mean, do you know, with the running now, I know we're probably going to get on to Orel, but with him coming in, and if we have got injuries, and he's probably one of the only options, with him being at right wing-back, backs against the wall, you've got Niakate, Felipe and Worrell trying to save you a point or something in the last 5 minutes against Palace to keep us up. That sounds horrendous. But if something like that happens, you'd have confidence, wouldn't you? And I think, with all our injuries, thank God we have the squad we have got, because it should have destroyed us by now, the amount we've had. But we just keep grinding them out. We keep next man up. You put one of your oldest serving centre-backs at right back, and he does a job. So I know our defence, we've conceded a lot of goals, obviously, but we've had a hell of a lot of things to do, and you do trust our defence, and all three of them.
And Bolly as well. I mean, actually, our best run as a defence was with Bolly in the side, so him coming back really helps. Let's just touch on Joe quickly. I'm going a bit scatty around the games, but if you have to go to Chelsea with Joe as a very defensive right back, Gary, I mean, I don't think that's the worst thing if Aurier's out, is it? If Worrell just sits in and makes it a very flat back 4 or 5.
It'll be interesting to see what actually happens. I mean, Aurier's injury did look quite bad, didn't it? He was really struggling with it. So that was a blow again, because, with him and Loddy in there, we saw earlier in the run we had that we were 16th before. Those two were part of that run. So what you'll get with Joe is just honesty. You'll give everything he's possibly got to do things right and to get us over the line. So, it's great to have somebody like him coming on. The last game, the Brighton game, he came on and did superb as well, didn't he? So, some players may mope and, sort of feel sorry for themselves, but he doesn't do that. He just gets on with it, and he's very professional about it, which is good to see.
Yeah, and I think, this must be some kind of record. I think that's the 6th time he's come on this season because of an injury. For a centre-half, that just doesn't happen. Or if you're a centre-half on the bench normally, you're probably not getting on, are you, really? So it says something to his character as well, to be fair. Right, I think we probably covered most of the game because we went back to the penalty. So, are you convinced now, Gary, that Forest are going to stay up? I know, or was that a bit jovial, that comment before?
No, I think we'll stay up. I've seen nothing to fear in Chelsea at the moment. Yes, they won against Bournemouth at Bournemouth, but Bournemouth were safe then. Bournemouth have had a great run. They got some great results and got themselves out of it. Chelsea had lost, I think, 5 on the trot before that, hadn't they? So, that might have lifted them a little bit. But like I say, why fear them? They're mid-table. They're not that far above, the drop because of the run they've been on. And, then Arsenal, obviously, that was always going to be the hardest of the running because of the season they've had. But it's at home. And, Crystal Palace are safe. Roy Hodgson's come in and done a great job. You just don't know, but it's in our hands. That's all I wanted to see going into the final stages of the season, that we got a chance, that if, we're out that bottom 3, it was down to what we have in that squad. And I think the injuries, like I said earlier, coming back, maybe surprisingly a little bit, some of them. I think it's a huge bonus for us, and nothing to fear in the last 3 games, I don't think.
I'm going to jump back into the game quickly because I should say, Greg, I know we talked about Danilo, but the moment and the relief of that 4th goal and the quality, the flick from Gibbs-White, the cross from Brennan, and the finish, we should give that a mention as well, shouldn't we?
Yeah, it was a relief. Like I said earlier, I love his celebration as well. He's got that kind of Collymore style celebration and his confidence. But like you say, the flick from Gibbs-White, it's just the sensible brains they've got, and they find these balls, don't they, when we need them most. And do you know one thing I wanted to quickly say as well, when Garry said about the players not moping? Some of these players, like, you got Harry Toffolo straight away putting brilliant videos on Twitter and McIntyre after the game. There was players not in club kit on the pitch celebrating after the game who didn't need to be there. You've got Steve Cook flying the flag online this weekend, and there really is a togetherness. And you see the turmoil at other clubs at the minute, and I think maybe it's because it's our first season and we are so desperate and we haven't been beaten down and fed up with this league and this, that, the other. But it really does feel like that is what's going to bring us home now. And go back to the 4th goal. It's moments like that make it all worthwhile. And I did think that was it then. I thought game over, even for us, which obviously it didn't turn out to be. But the release and the noise in the crowd was just incredible. So good.
Yeah, I think that's a great point about the first season thing, because if this was Leeds' first season or Leicester's first season, they'd probably be the same as we are now, but they're a bit more jaded and have that level of expectation that will probably come to Forest. Touch wood if we stay up, and it might be different, but
we'll push on. We'll have Ward-Prowse. We'll have all these new fancy players to push
we'll have Ward-Prowse in the top corner.
Yeah.
So same question to you that I put to Garry then. I've got the 2 most optimistic people on, but are you convinced we'll stay up now or not?
Greg. Pause.
Oh, I thought you said Garry.
No, Greg, sorry.
Yeah, I am. I'm convinced we'll stay up. And I think Chelsea's a free hit again. What can't happen is, that result after Brentford, it was, it was so gutting. And I think Chelsea has to be seen as a bit of a free hit now, because I actually believe we have a better chance against Arsenal. I think with our home form, how we've done against the big teams, the last team to take points away from City, I think, like we all know we beat Liverpool. We've done things against Chelsea at home, and I do think that the home game is going to be the absolute key for us. If we get a point at Chelsea, that'll be incredible. And even the most pessimistic fans, I'll give him a shout out, the Steve Allens of this world. They'll be coming out of Chelsea thinking we're going to stay up as well, especially if results go our way. And, you go into Arsenal then thinking just this game and that's it, celebration time. None of us want to go to Palace needing anything. None of us want to go there with that dread. It'd be nice to just go and have a good day out. So, yeah, I think Arsenal's the key. I think that home game against Arsenal is absolutely within our reach. We can get something against them.
Yeah, I suppose I'll try and put the devil's advocate case a little bit. I mean, I thought Arsenal were brilliant against Newcastle. Just looking at the fixtures for the other teams then. Obviously, Everton, Man City at home, which you'd expect them to lose, but, they beat Brighton, so you never know. Wolves away, Bournemouth at home. I think they might get some points there. Then I suppose it's all eyes on Leeds and Leicester now. So Leeds have got Newcastle at home, West Ham away, Tottenham at home. So I don't know. Does it go to the last day for them? Leicester, Liverpool at home, Newcastle away. Very tough games. West Ham at home. So I think, like you say, if Forest can get a point or 2 points in the next 2 games, what do you think, Garry? Is it Leeds and Leicester when you hear those fixtures? They've got some tough games, haven't they?
Well, a few weeks ago, we were saying, Bournemouth and Southampton look like 2, and pick anybody else from the rest. But look at Bournemouth.
Yeah,
it's so unpredictable at the moment. It's predictable at the top. It's been predictable at the top, but not at the bottom. It's crazy. Everybody wants to stay in the Premier League so much, and nerves can come into play, and Leicester looked absolutely bereft at the final whistle, didn't they? You looked at the faces, the body language, you looked at the fans, and you think, well, they look like they're down, but they are capable of beating teams on any given day. Now Vardy's back in there; he's not been there all season. They will have a chance, and they'll think they've got a chance. And there's only Southampton, you would say, at the moment are the certs to go down. So yeah, everybody will still be thinking it's in our hands. It's down to us. We've still got a chance, and that's the only way you can look at it. You've got to be positive. If you're negative and you sit back and you try and hang on to things, which we didn't last night. I think we have done previous games at times. It's the way forward. That's why Palace have got out of the predicament. When Roy Hodgson came in, I did their first game and against Leicester, and they beat Leicester. And it's because they were positive. They were on the front foot. They didn't sit back or anything. And Bournemouth, they've done the same. They've gone on the front foot against Arsenal. They had a great game against them. If you're positive and you go out there and take games to teams, you've got a chance. And with our team at the moment, with the one that started last night, there's that much ability in there and that creativity. You're always going to get an opportunity. You just need to tighten up a little bit at the back, and I think we'll be fine.
It just makes you wish that we hadn't had all these injuries, because I think, like we've said this so many times, I think that 11 with or Henderson coming in and maybe a couple of others, I think we'd have been all right. I mean, it's like Garry says, I know I sound pessimistic. It's just the unpredictable nature that worries me still, like that Everton result. Could Leicester match that against someone? But Liverpool and Newcastle are chasing Champions League football, and they need results now. Newcastle losing and Liverpool have got a sniff. So, yeah, it's going to be. I still think it goes to the last day, and it's going to be awful. Tense, not awful result, but awfully tense. So, I know I sound negative, but that's the way.
You sound like you're worrying, not negative.
I am worrying. I know last night was brilliant, but it's still worrying times. But like Garry says, I feel like we've got the side now in place to kick on that other teams haven't, like Leicester and Leeds. Smith can't know what that best 11 is for Leicester when he sees them defend like that. And, John Terry's been brought in to tighten them up at the back, and they've probably got worse. So I think we're in a much better place than them. Right. Moving on then. I think that's about it for covering the main content. Any other business, Greg? Anything you want to add?
No, not really. I had a good pint with Temps after the game yesterday. Saw Garry before the game as well.
Right.
Got your photo taken.
I know, yeah, finally got one. No, just after the game, seeing everyone so happy walking out the ground. Met these North Wales trickies who travel up from every game, and you think, God, don't it make it a nicer 3 or 4 hour journey home for them after a night like last night? So the one thing I will say is, those scarves, how impressive that looked. Just bring them again for Arsenal, because we've got one more, call it last dance at the City Ground, and it could be the one that keeps us up. So just bring everything that they bought last night to that game.
Imagine how Southampton fans felt travelling back there last night.
Yeah.
After watching that. I mean, that's a trip. It's 3 hours and you just got beaten. You look like you're going to go down. Yeah, and it's still in our hands. The last thing, I've got to mention Haaland again. I just think that man is just a phenomenon. He's just unreal. Watching what he does. I just love an ex-striker watching, how he goes about his game, and he finishes in every way possible. He's got every finish in the book. And one thing about him, he doesn't care when he misses. He cares, but it doesn't affect him. He'll carry on. He'll get in there again. He's prepared to miss again and again. And I just love watching him. I mean, I didn't enjoy watching him at, when they beat us 6, but even when he was at the City Ground, when we got the point, he was always there. He missed chances, but he's never afraid to get in the box again and miss again. I think he's been a magnificent addition to the Premier League.
We've got a one knee, don't worry, we're fine. A couple of bits.
But it is. Last night was just so pivotal. And, if that doesn't give you a lift as a player going into the last 3 games, nothing will.
A couple of bits from me to finish. Temps wanted to plug something. A memorial match at Dunkirk in celebration of the life of Jordan Harbottle, who I think, it says here, is related to Riley Harbottle's family, who's the young Forest defender who spent this season on loan at Mansfield. So it's at Dunkirk FC, Lenton Lane, obviously, in Nottingham. Saturday, the 13th of May, 3 p.m. kickoff. Everyone welcome, obviously, so do get down and support that. An error from me on last week's podcast. I forgot to say, or collectively, we've got to say well done to Forest women for winning their league title to back up their League Cup success. So well done to them. And I don't know what I should say this, but well done to Notts County. I don't know how Forest fans collectively feel.
Matt.
That was a hell of a game. I don't know if everyone saw
90th minute and 120th minute. I mean, that's how you do it. That's how you do it.
You're going to have some haters now. My wife being one of them. I'm glad. I really hope they win it at Wembley. I think it's good for the city. Get them back up. You know, League Two. It's a tougher league, but yeah, good on
the city.
You've got to feel sorry for Mansfield as well. I mean, they win their game and they get done on goal difference getting into the playoffs. You know, so that's a big blow as well. You know, Nigel. You know, I know Nigel's had more injuries than we have. At Mansfield, you know, he's not been able to fill the bench at times, I don't think. So, yeah, it's a sterling effort and just missed out, unfortunately.
The under-21s had a big win last night for Forest as well, didn't they? I think they now go to, is it a final or? Sorry, but they did. They had a big win. I can't remember what it's for, but
I'll have a look. I'll have a look. Greg, you've not mentioned Derby. Don't swear on here, but that was.
Well, Steve Cook. I don't have to. When you've got like players like Steve Cook flying the flag and doing what he did, I'd have given him man of the match for yesterday just for his antics this weekend. So don't have to mention Derby. Won't have to mention them next year or the year after because they're done now. Unfortunately for them, I think you got to get out of League One in the first season, or you're there for a very long time, as we found out. So. Unfortunate for them, but never mind.
Yeah, rough league to get out of, certainly. Under-21s won 3-0 against West Brom. They're into the final. It's a promotion final against Leeds to go up to the very top tier, I think, or that would be in the under-21s pyramid. So well done to them. Right, I think that's everything. Thanks very much to everyone who's watched along and commented. Very much appreciated. As ever, too much to keep up with. But it certainly helps. And like I said, if you enjoyed this, do like and subscribe and give us a good review on iTunes, etc., etc. Spread the word as ever. Greg, thank you very much.
No, cheers, Matt. Enjoyed it. Good to see you both.
Yes, very much enjoyed it. I love talking about a win. They're very precious in the Premier League, as we found out. Gary, thank you very much. Yeah,
pleasure. Big heads up for the Forest fans last night. They were absolutely magnificent as always. And you know, just the hairs on the back of your neck stand on end. You know, I was sat, as I said, with Guy Moussi, and you know the two of us were singing along, and you know, you just feel so part of it. And the noise around that stadium is just incredible. It really is.
He's gone. It always happens. Forest fans, I'll stall for a couple of seconds so we can get Greg back, so he doesn't just think we disappeared. Forest fans have become one of the stars of the season in the country. They've done their reputation, no harm at all. You're always seeing commentators plugging it and saying how good it is. And Jeff Stelling last night saying Forest fans are special.
Well, I saw the BBC thing and it said the raucous atmosphere at the City Ground, and it is. It's that sort of atmosphere. Every game, they're absolutely unreal. You know, and the start of it, the Muller Kintyre kicks it all off. But you know, the backing they've given Steve has been incredible and thoroughly deserved.
Wasn't an hour on your iPad. What happened there?
I don't know. I think I've probably spoke a little bit more than I normally do, so it's burnt it out maybe. I need a new iPad. This one, I mean, it's even bent. It's not, it's fighting on. It's battling on.
Yeah, 3-man panel. You do get a few more words in, but yeah, I assume Temps is fine. But it was a shame he couldn't join us, obviously. So right, we are going to go there. Thanks very much to everyone who's watched along. We'll be back later in the week to preview the Chelsea game. In the meantime, have a good few days. Enjoy the morale boost that was last night, and we shall see you again soon.